Back to one of our top stories. The United Nations has proposed replacing dollar as the world's reserve currency with a new global one, and its report suggests the current system is not working properly and is largely responsible for the economic crisis. And for more, I'm now joined live from Geneva by one of the report's authors, Detlef Cotte, from the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Mr. Cotte, very well welcome to the programme. So what's the problem with having the dollar as a reserve currency?
Well, the dollar as a world currency means that the supply of international liquidity is determined by the American Central Bank, that is the Federal Reserve System. And the supply of the liquidity is not in line with the needs in the world economy, but the policies of the Fed are designed with regard to the needs of the United States economy. This is one disadvantage. The other disadvantage is that it allows the United States to run huge deficits without ever having to adjust them, because they can print the currency with which they can pay for their imports, which is not the case for any other country.
Yeah. So, and what's the possible replacement for the dollar? How would this global currency work? Could you spend it anywhere, for instance?
Well, of course, a possibility would be to replace the dollar as a reserve currency by an artificial medium. This had been suggested many years ago by Keynes when the post-war world economic and financial order was conceived. Today we would have a possibility to enlarge the role of the special drawing rights issued by the IMF, and they could supply the world with the necessary liquidity, in particular in times of crisis like the present one, and the IMF could act like a world central bank that steers the global money supply. But more importantly than the issue of the reserve currency is the question: why do countries need to hold foreign exchange reserves? And they need to hold these foreign exchange reserves largely in order to be able to counter any, what some people call, speculative attacks on their currency. That is, situations where exchange rate come under pressure, where currencies are under pressure to devalue. So if we would establish a more an exchange rate system that would guarantee more stable exchange rates, the need for foreign exchange reserves would be much reduced, and therefore in our report we focus very much on the reform of the international system to determine the exchange rates.
But what will happen to national reserves of Russia, China and Japan, that are the largest holders of the US currency and their debt, if the dollar loses its status?
Well, I mean, of course, these dollars can be sold against other currencies. I don't think that would be the major problem. The main problem here is not to ask or to find an answer to what could be done with these dollar reserves, which are kind of which are kind of savings from the global economic activities. The question is rather, how can we bring important countries, including the reserve currencies, towards an agreement on a new multilateral framework for exchange rate determination. And unfortunately, the G20 that has taken on the lead in the reforms following the current financial and economic crisis has paid very little attention to this question, and this is why this report tries to highlight the importance of a reform of the international monetary and financial system, including the role of the International Monetary Fund, including the exchange rate system.
All right, Detlef Cotte from the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Thank you very much indeed for your time.